Friday, March 13th, 2020, a day that will never be forgotten at WHS, when what most of us thought would be a couple extra weeks of vacation turned into almost 2 years of learning affected by a pandemic. From fully masked and 6 feet apart to the point we have reached today, the coronavirus changed the way of life here at WHS. It was never easy, but it helped us reach the sense of normalcy we have returned to. And although it was a long and hard-fought battle, WHS is now stronger because of it. As COVID-19 initially hit Westborough and other areas of the U.S., panic ensued.
Of course, it's not just sports programs closing, but schools as well. Here in New York City, 2 more public schools joined the more than 1,500 K-12 schools across the country that have or plan to shut down due to this virus. And that poses a big problem, not only for many other factors, but for families who rely on free or discounted school meals for their children.
There was widespread anxiety surrounding this pandemic, particularly at WHS. Teachers, students, and administrators were unaware of the true nature of this virus.
Oh, it was wonderful. I really enjoyed teaching. It was not wonderful. It was very difficult for teachers and for students. It was hard to maintain focus. It was hard to see yourself in a real environment, in a real learning environment. The kids struggled with it. The teachers struggled with it. It was very, very difficult. It was not fun. I would not like to return to it.
Well, it made us really think more about how we're going to run our classes, and we had a lot to do with a lot of the equipment after every class. You saw some of you were in my classes, had to wash it off after every class, let it soak for 10 minutes, then let it dry. And then as far as being able to have students who work as hard as we used to, it was a little difficult because of the masks. We wanted to respect that, and we took a lot more breaks than normal. I think that was the right thing to do, but overall we still able to do the things we want to do, and stick to our core values, which are working hard, getting you to be working with students. And so we challenge you in a different way as far as just like teamwork, team building, things in that respect. So
I remember that it was very sudden, and it felt like at the week before we were talking in Dr. Ryan's bio class about how COVID-19 was in China, and we didn't really think it would ever affect us at all. And then all of a sudden, it was like on a random day, everything was shut down for the next few weeks, and it didn't really feel real at all. It was very weird, and I just remember feeling kind of relieved because I was in the middle of my junior year. Everything was getting pretty stressful. I remember I had the SAT coming up on the weekend. I had a bunch of tests coming up, so I was like, maybe some time off would be nice, but obviously it escalated pretty quickly, and before we knew it, the entire year was gone, completely remote, and it was pretty crazy. The last day we were fully back in a regular high school, there was like less than half of the people even in school. I would say it affected just seeing everyone in your grade the most, because we'd had the hybrid model, so we were only going into school 2 days a week in person, and then we were online for 2 days, and then we had like a half day on Zoom on Fridays, and that definitely changed everything. Obviously, having such a small class when you're in person, only getting to see half your friends, definitely changed a lot of things. And also with sports, we weren't allowed to watch a lot of the games, which was kind of sad because, senior year you get excited to go to the basketball games and just have big crowds at our games, but unfortunately we couldn't do that. And along with that, a lot of the regular senior year activities, at least for the fall, we couldn't do, which was sad, but we eventually got to do a lot of them in the spring.
Before the schools closed down in March 2020, how were you planning on finishing the year?
Well, like any year, we're hoping to finish strong. We're hoping to, kind of celebrate the teaching and learning that, that takes place. our typical end of the year events with seniors, with junior prom, and all kinds of things like that. And with the staff specifically, we're looking to kind of have a culminating event around all their accomplishments or all that they saw as rewards working with kids. That happens in May at the last half day. We have a big celebration about sharing all of the great rewards that it is working with kids and working with their colleagues. But couldn't do any of that.
Yeah. Do you think that will be returning this year?
In some fashion, yes, because the way the year started this year, we have had to change a few things. While there's been some great rewards, it's still been real arduous, been real tough for students and for staff. So while there is a lot to celebrate for sure, we will do that on May 20th, and that last half day. It will not be as involved as previous years, but we're definitely looking forward to junior prom, definitely looking forward to senior ball and all of those other events that we can now do fully in person.
Yeah. And as an administrator, how did you respond to the pressures and rigors that came with the pandemic?
Kind of like a ship sinking, stayed with the ship and just try to keep bailing water, to be perfectly honest with you. We just did whatever needed to get done to take care of staff, to take care of students, get technology into the hands, get Wi-Fi into neighborhoods, into apartment complexes, to basically we had no idea what was going on, obviously, those first few months. We had no idea. So just trying to keep people calm, just try to jump into some classrooms online and make people feel safe as we could. I worked here every day with Mr. Lefebvre and Mr. Carlo, and in the morning we delivered about 100 meals to families that needed it, and then spent the rest of the day, like I said, just checking in with staff and with students and just trying to make them feel safe.
I would say I was most looking forward to prom because we normally have a junior prom at Westborough, but we didn't get that because I was a junior when COVID started, and then it ended up affecting all of senior year too, so we didn't end up doing a prom senior year either, which was pretty sad, but we ended up getting to do like a semi-formal outside on the field, which was nice to see everyone and we got to dress up, but obviously we would have wanted to have like a real prom. I think everyone looks forward to that in high school, but I'm just glad that everyone ended up staying safe and we did what we could to keep everyone healthy.
Do you think that if COVID-19 didn't happen, that your life would have played out differently?
I think that COVID definitely changed a lot of things in my life. Definitely changed my perspective on things. And it also, I would say, got me more interested into the science field because I really wasn't sure what I was interested in like all of high school. But now I'm majoring in health sciences, and I think COVID definitely had an impact on that just because I was always trying to learn more about it, and I think that that's kind of how I learned that I was possibly interested in the sciences. And it also affected the college process a lot because you weren't able to tour many schools, so that was really hard because you obviously want to see the school before you apply and go to it. And I know so many people who I met at college who have never even been to the campus before, which is just crazy that that's the reality of a lot of people. And it also affected the application process because we weren't allowed to do a lot of the standardized testing that was normally a big part of the application. But I was pretty grateful for that because it took away a lot of the stress on having perfect test scores for colleges. So I ended up being able to take it once, which was good because I wanted to see if it could possibly help my application. But it was really nice that I didn't have to submit it to all of my schools.
As a coach, well, that was challenging in many ways. Obviously, our practice were a little bit shorter this year. Again, with the masks, we had to have, distancing on the benches. In the timeouts, they were different. Going back, 2 years ago when this thing started, remember, in games, we weren't doing any side, there was no baseline out of bounds. Everything was a side out of bounds. So the game kind of changed. They changed some of the rules, but we modified, and everyone was on the same playing field because the rules were the same.
Students in Westborough had the option to take off their masks for the first time this school year, but this is a policy that many teachers don't support. WBZ's Christina Hager is in Westborough tonight, where Christina, staff members actually held a walkout in protest.
Yeah, Lisa, this is an issue that has divided people in this town, where the school board voted just last week to allow middle and high school students to take their masks off starting today.
I was in a classroom today where there were more than half of the students that were unmasked.
Parents with signs in solidarity, they say, with teachers who staged a walkout at dismissal on this first day. Westborough started a new flexibility masking policy. It allows anyone who's vaccinated to take masks off inside the high school and also here at the middle school.
It's really scary because there's like a new variant.
Masks are required in most Massachusetts schools, at least until mid-January. But state education officials granted a waiver here because any school with a vaccination rate of at least 80% can apply for one. In Westborough, 95% of kids 12 to 19 years old are fully vaccinated. And for the 5 to 11-year-old group that most recently became eligible, 65% have had at least one shot.
I'm glad to see Westborough being a leader.
Westborough mom Nicole Sullivan says it's time.
These children are not wearing masks when they're in the movie theaters. They're not wearing masks at the garden if they're vaccinated. So why do they have to wear masks in schools?
But when we spoke with parents outside school,
I think it's not a very smart decision to take the masks off.
At some point, I think it needs to be done. I think now's not the time.
Danielle Jordan spoke with us before she stepped out in front of school in protest.
We've done pretty well coming back. We really have. For a long time, almost all students remained masked. We did the best we could with curbing the spread of it and still having a school year. Of course, the cohorts were difficult at the start of last year. There were some real problems, but we maneuvered through it as best we could, and I think we're slowly but steadily moving away from it. So I think we're doing okay.
I think the school's done a really good job. I think the biggest thing I've seen is pretty much everyone's been respectful of others' thoughts on this whole process. And as far as masking, now that it's optional, I've seen the school really step up. Because that could have gone one of two ways in my opinion. But I think the school as a whole has done a great job. I think it's the students have embraced what needs to be done. It might not be the most fun or what you used to, but at the end of the day, I think the school's done a great job of keeping you safe, still having healthy learning environments, and obviously at the end of the day having fun. And I think now we're back on track to being back to what it was before the pandemic, and hopefully we continue to go there. But it starts with the teachers and the students working together, and I think the school's done a good job in that respect.
Well, we started off all remote at the beginning of senior year, and then we moved to the hybrid style where we were going in 2 days a week and Zoom half days on Friday. And then around April or May of senior year, we got to be fully back in person, which was definitely an adjustment at first because going from 2 days a week to 5 days a week of school is a lot for anyone. It is a lot for the students and the teachers. But I think that it was the best thing for us as the seniors because we finally got to see all of our friends, and it was just so nice to have like a full classroom of people. You got to sit closer to your friends, and it was just so nice to finally be back. And it was like the last month of the year, so we had all of our senior activities coming up, and I was just so appreciative that we got all of those last final things to do all together. And we got a lot of our senior activities, like almost all of them I would say. And around that time also the outdoor mask mandate was lifted, so we got to have graduation with everyone. We got to invite all of our parents, and we also didn't have to wear masks. So that was a really awesome way to end the year because although our high school experience was definitely affected by COVID, it was nice to end it on a good note with everyone together.
Yeah, and I'm sure that throughout the pandemic, everybody was feeling unsure during a lot of the time, and I just wanted to know, like, were there any points in the pandemic that you were feeling unsure of yourself? Like you didn't have a clear-cut answer or a solution to a problem?
Yeah, sure. Again, not having experienced anything quite like a global pandemic in my life, but being a history person, I taught history for 15 years. We knew about the Depression. We knew about the sacrifices that societies make during wars, World War I, World War II, Vietnam War. We knew about the plague from the medieval times. So I knew that we had to have order as much as we could. I knew we needed some flexibility to make sure people could get what they needed and do what they felt was the right thing. But like I said, being the principal of the school, just wanted to be there for everybody that needed me.
Yeah, and obviously there are a lot of opinions in this town. There's a lot of people who feel very strongly about what the schools should do. And in making decisions, like how did you decide what was best for the students and staff here at WHS?
Great question. I did what I traditionally do, which in part, it was I'll answer this in two ways. One, where I felt there was time, I collaborated with my assistant principals, with the department heads, and with teachers, where I felt there was time to do things. For example, how we were going to end quarter 4 during COVID. Was it a P, high P, P plus, F, right? So that felt we had a little bit of time, and I did not make a unilateral decision on that. I brought people together, we talked it through, figured, here's what we could do, and everyone signed off on it. So I felt pretty good about that. But many things I had to make unilateral decisions because time was of the essence. Again, around technology, around getting Wi-Fi into apartment complexes, about food security, and feeding people that needed it. I made a lot of executive decisions because I felt the situation required that level of decisiveness and immediacy.
Yeah. What have you learned from COVID-19?
I learned that people in Westborough are incredible. I learned that. I knew that, but I felt that, and I learned it in a way that that I couldn't anticipate if everything was just normal. Yeah. Kids incredible, flexible, just bouncing back, persevere. Even the ones that really struggled and were traumatized by the experience, they're coming back. So the resiliency in our young adults in this community and our school has just impressed me beyond belief. And then our staff being able to respond, and because it was not easy for them either. Teaching through a computer screen at home. It was new to everybody, but they responded and reacted like pros, and continue to do so. We're not been perfect. Nobody's been perfect throughout this whole thing. But what I learned most is that great sense of humanity, great sense of professionalism, and that resiliency piece. Just real true grit. Yeah. Real true grit.
And things have really changed around here a lot since March 2020. So how do you feel about the progress we have made as a school since the shutdown back in early 2020?
Again, it speaks to the resiliency of everybody. I think we have taken proper steps forward. I know relative to masking, we tried in December to kind of go unmasked, and then that COVID surge, with Omicron peaked up, so we went back to masks. But I think, through open dialogue and fair warning, and sending information out, and people read it or talk about it, that's great. If they don't, then hopefully they're, following the lead of other people. But I think that people have done a pretty good job trying to turn that corner and get COVID behind us. We'll never forget it, and I don't think we should. But at the same time, I hope that people appreciate the fact that when the tough got going, and when it was real rough, that people stepped up and delivered what they needed to, and they made it. So I'm grateful about that, and fortunate that we've made that kind of progress. Looking forward to next year, the gains that we can make with a more normal year are going to just be incredible.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us.
Absolutely. Good to see you.
Good to see you.